Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. Fantastic. Kurt Van Anen, your host of the Mañana morning check-in. Today is June 30th. It is 2021. And here we are. It is Wednesday, hump day, right in the middle of the week. And so far, fantastic. So I've gone through a bunch of my messaging for today. That's kind of my thing. I need to go and do this right after this meeting here. I need to go ahead and get into my journal and my devotional for the day, get my head screwed on straight, just really make sure that I'm as positive as can be to attack the day. Interesting. I've got 5 bicycles listed on Facebook Marketplace right now. And this is just one of these examples with digital marketing and just everybody being online and being remote and doing those things. So we've got a quiver of bicycles here at the Van Anen household, right? And I'm using this as a workspace. And so I'm looking around and I'm going, okay, we're not even using half these bikes, right? Things have got to go. So my son's outgrown a few things. My daughter's not riding anymore. She's into figure skating and doing other things. I'm still the bicycle fanatic, right? But I'm not riding, this old BMX bike, right? So we took 5 of our bikes, put them on Facebook Marketplace, and it's been interesting to see the results and the feedback that I get from the different ads and the different ways I've put them up or tried to write them, or different groups that I've posted them in. It's kind of almost like a learning experiment for me for Mañana no Mas, right? So anyway, I get a hit today on one of them, and sure enough, they're making offers before they even see the bike, which seems to be the normal thing nowadays. And I said, look, you need to come and see it. So they're on their way down. And what I find interesting is, with this whole remote work, remote everything, it's like time is now flexible. Think of the freedom that people have now. I mean, here we are, it's before noon on a Wednesday, and someone's coming down to take a look at a bicycle. Typically, that's the kind of thing you would only see in an evening or on a weekend, right? Now it's all the time. And so, the person that's coming to see this bike, they're probably leveraging some other kind of time to be able to do that, whether they're going to work after hours to catch up on what they missed today, or maybe they're ahead of the curve. Maybe they're ahead of time on a project they're working on for work, or maybe I could put all kinds of words in their mouths to figure out how they justified coming down here, at noon on a Wednesday. But it's super interesting to see how our methods of communication and our tools are constantly evolving and changing, and at a really, really high pace. Last year, I covered the book Leadership by John C. Maxwell. I had everybody, buy the book, right? Because I want them to have the book. And then they would read a chapter, and then I would get on, once a week, and I would review the chapter. And the main theme of leadership is, we don't have time anymore to make 5-year and 10-year and 15-year plans. Our businesses need to be focused on, like long-term's great. Like, have an idea of this is where I want to be someday. But your 5-year plan now needs to happen in 2.5 years, 2 years, 18 months. If you were planning on doing some online courses, for example, because that's one of my specialties, right? You don't have the time to make the perfect mousetrap. You don't have the time to build something awesome and then try to lure people to it. What you need to do now is you need to jump into the fray, and you need to find a community for your product online. You need to attract an audience before the product is even launched. And then you need to develop that product. You need to get that, the learning management system. You need to get some kind of product or blogging or some kind of community tool in place and build that community so that when you release the project, it's able to populate quickly and begin to monetize almost immediately. This has been such an interesting transformation for me to watch, because I can remember when setting up a corporate training site, for example, like I set up the corporate training site for Ducati North America. When I did that, I had the time to sit and go, okay, this is the platform I want to use. These are the types of courses I want to host. I'm going to make these courses. I'm going to import some assets from the mother company. I'm going to this, I'm going to that. I'm going to take my users and I'm going to, load them in, and then I'm going to, drip feed the content to these users and make sure that, it's launching the way that I want it to, and that people are able to consume the content in its entirety. And people aren't consuming content in its entirety. People are into micro learning now. Like if someone, and I'll use Ducati as the example. If somebody wants to reset the TPS, the throttle positioning sensor, on a Ducati 1299, they're not going to watch the whole series and product onboarding sessions for the entire Ducati 1299. No, they're going to want to search out, how do I reset the TPS on 1299? And a good training site is going to be able to go, boom, here's what you need. Here's a video tutorial on how to do it. And here's the printed resource that gives you the directions in detail, right? So here's the details, here's the manual, here's what a technician needs to follow step by step by step. But let's give you kind of a succinct overview in a video format of what you're going to be looking at right here, right? That's how training needs to happen. And so when I'm looking at making training material now for the Mañana No Mas Academy or for the Power Sport Academy, what I'm looking at is, how can I make this content in a way that allows the user to go, this is what I want, this is where it is. This is what I want, this is where it is. Now, if that's the way people are learning, then we also need to get used to the idea that they may want to have some peer connections. And they might want to say, hey, I know that Jason was working on this about a month ago. Maybe I can pop him a question real quick, right? And so there's got to be a way for Billy, Bob, and Jason to be able to connect. And so your learning management system, if it's modern, is going to have a way for people to do that. Like, for instance, I was in charge of the learning management system at Suzuki Motor of America. Suzuki Motor of America has great content, fantastic content for technicians, but it wasn't built in a micro-learning way. It was using older technology. It was using an older paradigm that wasn't quite ready for what we're doing today in a leadership world, right? And it didn't have a way for other users to communicate with each other in the back end. It didn't have like a closed, you don't want people just having Facebook groups, I'm a Suzuki technician, and then all these other Suzuki technicians jump in, and then you got customers and dealers and all kinds of people trying to get in there and see what technicians are talking about. If you're Suzuki, you don't want that. That's the last thing you want. You want to be able to have a secure intranet where you invite people that are qualified to come in and have private conversations about product and process and technologies and issues and things like that. And so when I look at these projects, that's exactly the types of things I consider for people when I build those projects for other companies. Now, when I build them for myself, it just depends on the needs of that network. Remember what I said about growing the community, right? So I've got access to all these tools, but if the community is not embedded in that product, it's premature to launch things sometimes. So that, that peer-to-peer communication, you really don't want to launch that until you've got, 100 users or so. So the conversations that are going to happen, right? I've made the mistake, and I'm very transparent about this. I've made the mistake in the past of loading too many tools in too quickly. And then when new users come in, when the community's just starting out, there's all these rabbit trails that they can go down and they get lost, and they don't, let's say they sign up into a group and they think there's going to be a group of people in there to have a discussion with something. Well, they sign in and they are the group, right? And then they put up a couple of posts and nobody responds. Well, that person is going to withdraw and they're going to say, well, that didn't work for me. And they're going to shut it off, right? They might still be connected to it, but they're not using it. Now, a couple of other people jump in and they might post an answer, but this other person's already said, that turned off the notifications. I'm not dealing with that. And so now other people post and nothing happens. And then they go, oh, well, this isn't working. And it creates this weird, like, dysfunctional site. If the site's going to be functional, you want it to be able to communicate and have people connect with each other. And in order for that to happen, you have to have community first. And then as that community shows the need, you turn these tools on, then you announce them and you invite everybody and they all come in and use it. Hopefully I'm making sense to folks. Anyway, I do this for a lot of people. And it's weird how using Facebook Marketplace brought all this to a head for me. Seeing the way that people are trying to do business, identifying the times that they're doing business, and then recognizing that it's this new remote nature of our work that is allowing that to happen. And so as a web developer, how can I not just ride the wave, but how can I help form the wave? How can I use the technology at my fingertips to be able to expedite this process and make people more comfortable in their remote work, the remote freedoms, and make them more efficient working remotely? And I have all that. I love doing it. It's such a cool thing to do. So anyway, that was probably a longer conversation than it needed to be, but I just thought it was interesting. It's to see people in these environments, how they behave, how they communicate, and then try to adopt the products I'm currently making to kind of feed into that flow, right? So many times what we do is we come out with a product or we come out with something and we try to force other people to use it the way we've built it. And in reality, they're going to use it the way they use it, right? So what I focus on is, here's the beginnings of a product. Let's see how people are going to use it. And then how can I amplify it or make it better so that people use it more? That's kind of it, right? I once had a guy about a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, did a quick interview with me, and he said, Kurt, your why, the big thing is why. What's your why? And he said that my why was basically making things simple, taking complex issues and communicating them in a simple way that makes sense, right? So number one was make sense. Number two was find a better way, right? And number three was simplify. How can I simplify this the most possible? So all three of my indicators are right in a line. And as soon as he said it, I was like, well, that's exactly how I do it. A lot of customers I deal with, they focus on, let's see who's calling. Oh, it's my wife. Guys, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to be a good husband. Have a good day. Bye-bye.